birds and see the sun. Side by side our fears are done. Oh, the good times just begun. We know what we have, let's hold on tight. Found what we're looking for in life. Call us crazy, but things are finally right. With you and I, the future is bright. You and I, we got it. We don't need no more. Even in the hard times, you and I can weather any storm. Before I sleep, hear the crickets, see the moon. Side by side and through. No limit to what we can do. We know what we have, let's hold on tight. Found what we're looking for in life. Call us crazy, but things are finally right. With you and I, the future is bright. You and I, we got it. We don't need no.
Hello, everyone. Great to be here on Interview Friday. I see Ted Morehouse is here. He's never been here before. I want to welcome him and anybody who's never seen this show before. This is a guy I call Smiley. He's a monkey that was on the show earlier. Today we're going to be talking about comedy and acting. And we're going to have Ivana Chubbuck on the show. Master acting teacher and coach. Let's get into this. It's Lunch Therapy Interview Friday. I'm gonna get myself a modem. 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 All right. So before we get to the main event, we're gonna breathe. And what better thing to breathe to than this, which is the Firefly Handpan Duet by Peter Levitoff and Maxime Leroyer. Had them on Tuesday. Had to have him back because it's a great place to breathe. I don't know what this construction is that they're playing in, but it looks like a fun time. Looks like there's a fire pit in the middle. Yeah, so people are checking in. It's a cool hut, isn't it? All right, we're going to breathe in through the nose, out through the toes. Hold it. Let it go. Top of the show, we breathe 3 times. Might be the only breathing you do all week. Who knows? In through the nose, out through the toes. My shirt is cool. Let it go. Thank you. Thank you. Big hut. We're in the big hut. One more time. In through the nose, out through the toes. Hold it. Big butt. Let it go. I'm Bigfoot. I dropped a weight on my toe earlier this week. My toe swelled up. I'm now Bigfoot. See what Ted has to say. Wait a minute. That's how we start out our Shakespeare class. Breathing exercises. That's right. Breathing is always good for any endeavor. I see Vernus is here. Getting subtitled in French. From her French phone there. French phone. They're in Paris. All right, let's get into this interview. This is going to be a good one. This is with Ivana Chubbuck. Ivana Chubbuck is a world-renowned acting teacher and acting coach. And she has graciously graced us with her presence. Okay, so she has a proven track record of coaching many people like Jim Carrey, Halle Berry, Amy Brenneman, Zooey Deschanel, Gary Shandling, Jessica Biel, Jared Leto, America Ferrera. It goes on and on and on. Damon Wayans. Lots of comedians, lots of dramatic actors have been coached by her. And she's super effective. Many of them have won Academy Awards, Tonys. So she's been doing this for 35 years. And she started her acting process, I think, with the traditions of Konstantin Stanislavski. And it's also rooted in psychology. And her technique involves this 12-step process for covering all the elements of embodying a character. And it's a way that actors can work specifically and, most importantly, personally. And it doesn't just involve dredging up emotions, but instead you work through things that are in your life, things happening in your life currently through your acting. And this is actually healthy for the actor and also helps them to present a 3-dimensional person who's actually working through something through the story of the piece that they're working on. So today I brought her in. I've been working with her for about a year now since I interviewed her on the show last time. And we've been working primarily on comedy. And so we're here today to talk about comedy and how an actor approaches a script that has been labeled a comedy. And thank you all for joining us. And this is Interview Friday. Ivana Chubbuck.
I finally went to a class in Los Angeles with this wonderful teacher called Ivana Chubbuck. Ivana taught me how to take my emotion and take everything that has happened in my life to make me an effective actor. The stakes have to be high, and so it was really an interesting place for me to kind of stand on my feet and fall on my face many times.
I want to thank Ivana Chubbuck. I could have never figured out who the heck this lady was without you. I love you. Thank you. Thank you so much for being my mentors and believing in me. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
I went to this acting coach. Her name was Ivana Chubbuck. And she just began to break me down. And I went, wow. Because it's almost as though certain acting habits become calcified, and before you know it, you're just, you're like a piano player with one finger. You keep hitting that same note over and over again, and this time there was no abiding that. Yeah, just right away got into really subliminal, exploratory, personal chambers that I wanted to keep closed.
Ivana Chubbuck, if it were not for you, I literally would not be standing here. You have changed.
Ivana Chubbuck, so great to have you on the show. You were here a year ago. It seems like it's less than that, but it's actually even more than a year. Welcome back to Lunch Therapy.
Oh, I'm glad to be back here, but I don't know if you remember, but I asked you to come back because we've been working together. So last time I didn't know you from Adam. I know you've been studying in the school, but you understood the technique. However, you've been in my class, and I have a whole new relationship with you. So I wanted to explore that from a different level. I thought that would be interesting for your audience.
Me too. Thank you very much for doing this, because it's very, very helpful for people, for myself, of course, but also for people out there to learn more about your technique. And now that I know a little bit more about how you work the technique, I've got a lot to ask you about. One of the things is, when we talked about this last time, you said, hey, I want to work on your comedy. And I want to work on comedic acting with you, and I super appreciate that. And you have worked with some of the great comedians. And I was wondering, okay, so one of the things that I've learned from working with you is that comedic acting is essentially the same as dramatic acting, except maybe it's even a little deeper and a little darker. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, the thing is that we find that we look back at the times we've done the things that make us laugh today, that I can't believe I did that. I can't believe I said that. I can't believe of my behavior. And it makes us crack up. What happened at the time that it happened, it was tragic, and you were upset, and you were in a desperation mode, and you were like feeling really tragic in your heart and your soul. And we end up doing things that are like outrageous, things we never would have thought that we would have ever done. They create ultimately comedic behavior. What happens when an actor really is really going from a deep, dark, desperate place, they end up doing things that when they look back on it and they watch the film afterwards, is that they look and say, where'd that come from? And they're surprised by that. And they're also, if it's a sitcom and they're listening to people laugh when they're in the moment, why are people laughing? This isn't funny to me. I remember doing a pilot, a comedy sitcom pilot, and I made those kinds of choices. I was only meant to be like a guest star. I wasn't meant to be a regular. It was a pilot. And I just made such deep, dark, important choices that were like, there was, to me, was the world. Because I was using my father and him not, I felt like he didn't love me. He wasn't proud of me. I was really kind of going after that. And this is a sitcom. I wasn't trying to make it light. I was just going after like what I really needed and wanted from my personalizations, also from a character's point of view, then personalizing that so that I was really in it to win it, really try to get what I wanted with all my heart and soul, because I was using such deep, dark, and desperate things. And I was getting a laugh. I'm just a studio audience. I was getting a laugh on every line. And I remember thinking at the time, saying, why I was mad. Why are you laughing? This isn't funny to me. And of course, it was the weirdest thing, because I got a little bit of a standing ovation. I mean, I literally had 5 lines. So it was like, it was crazy. And so the producers came up to me afterwards, and like the whole thing was, I was really meant to do a smallish role, guest star. I don't put in quotes guest star, because it really wasn't, it was a 5-line role. And they said, you're so funny. Like, we want you to be a regular. The show gets picked up. You're a regular on the show. And so this is the whole thing I always tell my actors. It's like, just because you have a small role, you make it as important as you would if you had the lead. You make it really, and comedy and drama should not be thought of as different animals. They're not. So people say, well, I can't do comedy. I'm trying to make it light. And it's like, it's not light. It's like what we do in desperate situations is crazy. And that ultimately creates behavior. And we laugh at behavior. We don't laugh at the way someone says a line. It's really, when people walk away from, the movies, theater, whatever, they say, I love when someone did something, not how they said a line.
Yeah.
And so there's no such thing as comedy timing. It's about wanting something so bad that behavior is allowed to happen in the most, what the hell did that come from kind of way. And you end up being able to have people see you as something that you never thought that you could do. Is you always knew that you were funny. There's a lot of people I've helped create like careers that they thought they were dramatic actors, and they turned out to be really comedic actors because I helped them realize that their need to win something that was so dramatic to them ended up making them really funny. And so it's never to say this is what I do. This is explore all of it, but from the same place of need, the same place of wanting to overcome and win something of great importance to you. And we'll end up doing something that's really, at the very least, I mean, if it's a drama, you should always find the comedy in drama, and the drama and comedy, because we're working to get the three-dimensionality of life. We want to have three dimensions, not this is a comedy, this is a drama, but this is a full experience.
I'm having a million thoughts about this. One of the thoughts is, I think that I did that, what you're talking about, like when I was younger, like in high school, I had a club called the Myth Club, where we just, we basically wanted people to not take themselves so seriously. So we were kind of making fun of people that took themselves too seriously. And so we would do these crazy shenanigans and capers, and we had a kind of a purpose, and we did it with great joy. But it ended up, it was very funny. Most of the things that we did and telling stories about it is very funny. But we weren't concentrated on getting laughs. You know what I mean? And then somewhere along the line, when I went to drama school, I became very serious. I did a lot of Shakespeare, became very serious about acting. And sometimes when we become very serious about it, we kind of lose the play. And so I didn't even see myself as a comedic actor for the longest time, even when I was doing, like I played Romeo at Shakespeare and Company one summer, and we found a lot of the comedy in it because there's a ton of comedy in Romeo and Juliet. I mean, it's like really fun.
We're talking about a writer who wrote 2 14-year-olds in love.
Right.
So as long.
Yeah.
It's so important because when you're young, first love, it's always like we're willing to do anything, including kill ourselves. And in the name of love, it's like, that's crazy. That's crazy stuff. Anyway,
so then when I jumped in Silver Lake, they were doing a Company of Angels. They were doing Romeo and Juliet, and they asked me to jump in there and play Romeo. And the humor was still there. The other actors were like, oh my God, they didn't even realize there was so much fun to be had. They thought that Shakespeare was like this very morose thing. So there is a sense of play that I think has to happen. And I think that happens with stand-up comedy too, where you're having an exchange with the audience. But the thing about comedians is a lot of times they get really hung up on whether they're getting laughs or not. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that can be the death of their comedy.
It totally is, because if you're worried about getting laughs, you're waiting for the laughs. What's happening is that you are like divided in your attention of what you're really trying to do, which is great comedians are autobiographical. So they're talking about their own stuff. So I'm trying to help you as an audience relate to the stupid things I've done, which are, primarily relatable because we all do the same stupid shit in the name of love, in the name of getting a job, in the name of getting our power back, in the name of all these things that we primarily need to accomplish. And so if the audience laughs, they laugh because they relate. Mm-hmm. But if you're worried about getting a laugh, they don't relate to that. And so it makes all of us laugh when we're watching funny, whether it's acting funny or stand-up comedy. Mm-hmm. It's like if the audience doesn't feel like I've done that, well, I know about that. It makes you laugh because you're seeing yourself in it. And if
relating to it is so important.
so important in terms of like your investment, whether you laugh or cry. You have to have an investment in what the other person's doing.
Mhm.
And because having done stand-up comedy before in my life, I wasn't that great at it, but the point was that I did do it, and clearly I was not worried about getting laughs.
Well, I think there's a sense of needing control over whether you're going to be funny or not, because if you go out to some of these clubs in different cities around the country, they're like, we need a laugh every minute. They're like clocking you on how many laughs you get. So I think people feel like they need control. And we as actors sometimes fall into that trap as well, where we feel like we need to plan out what's going to happen. Otherwise it might not go right. What do you think about that? I mean,
I just know that, having worked with Gary Shanley, and he'd sometimes test his jokes on me and see what he thought this joke before, or he'd go and do a set at one of the smaller clubs before he did the Emmys. So he would test out the material to see, because material was always based in not getting the laugh, but like talking about something that just became so absurd about that he was living. And so sometimes it went on too long, or just it's not that relatable what he was talking about. So you test these things out to get your laugh a minute or whatever. It's like rehearsals. That's why I tell people, say, can you rehearse too much? And I said, you can't rehearse too much, because every time you do it, you're going to find something else that you can utilize. We want nuanced performances. Greatness is in the details, and the same is true of comedy. And comedy is like, if we just do a mush of information, we're not going to laugh. What makes us laugh is the details of how far we went in terms of trying to get this girl to like us, or the details of how neurotic you are, and what you do when you're really neurotic and paranoid about something. And so if we try to just go to the generic truths of things, it's not going to be funny, or, by the way, dramatic either. It's like, the idea is we're trying to affect people in a way that is universal, so that what makes people laugh in another country is going to make people laugh in this country. And I remember having someone tell me that when I went to Russia for the first time, they said Russians have different senses of humor than Americans do. So I know you always try to make people laugh whenever you do a workshop or a master class. I said, well, people enjoy the experience, not just get deep, because we do get deep, but we do push buttons and triggers that we didn't even know they had, that we go there to. But we also have fun and we laugh a lot. So they said, but in Russia, it's a different thing. So I said, the very least, farts are funny in every country, in every culture. And I said, at the very least, I have this little fart machine that I go carried around, and has all different farts. So at the very least, I will pull out the fart machine, put it next to the microphone, and it will get a laugh, because farts are funny universally. And, well, not for Russians. This is my Russian friend. So I said, okay, let's just see what happens. So I got laughs. I didn't need to pull out the fart machine. Humor is universal. It's like what stupid shit that we do, what paranoid shit that we do, our need to like make people like us, and the stupid shit that we do and making people like us, the stupid shit that we do and we want to get a job, the stupid shit we do and we want to get our power back, the stupid shit that it's like everybody relates to that, because human beings are human beings. And that's why we have to break down a script, and not like what's the funniest choice, but what's the choice that's the most necessary for me to expose and explore, and then try to use as a resolution in something. And funny will happen in spite of you, without trying to control it.
That's the thing, though, is you have to have you have to do the work, and then you have to have a kind of a trust, because a lot of times I'll find sometimes somebody will come up to me and say, well, this happened to me actually in class, where somebody's like, the faces that you make, and not the ones you try to make, but the ones that just happen, are so hilarious. And so you feel a little bit like, oh my God, I have no control over that. I just have to exist in this thing.
Well, that's
And
what just
you know what I
happened
mean?
to you recently is like you tried to make this scene. You've been doing
Yeah.
really good work, and you've been getting like
Thanks.
huge laughs. Whenever I tell people that you get to work with Joel, and they say, "Oh my God, I really want to work with Joel," because you've been bringing it from a really truthful and necessary place of true just desperation of real stuff. And then you decided to, because the scene was, I'm not going to say what it is, but the scene was clearly such big comedy.
Yeah.
I'm going for the big comedy. I'm going
Right.
and what happened was, it was the first time for a long time I have to see not be funny. And I said, so then the rework of it, when you really made it important and did all the work that you generally do, it's like, it was really funny. Same words, same stuff, same Joel, but the work was really investigated from a deep and dark and important place. And then I saw Joel again, the guy that by accident was funny, not because I'm choreographed. This is where the laughs go.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, especially when there's something that just seems so broad, that seems like, and also when you've seen it on the screen before and it was pretty broad that way. I wanted to ask you about this then. Jim Carrey, you worked with Jim Carrey. Did you feel like he was connected to the work?
Absolutely, because what we always used was because before he met me, he was doing all the just let's be funny stuff. And what was happened, he did a couple of movies and a show called The Duck Factory, and all three of them bombed. And they all just said, well, he can't act. He's not an actor. He's a stand-up comedy. He's a funny stand-up comedy person, but not an actor. But so he called me up. He said, can you fix this? Because I can't even get an audition now. I just kind of screwed up. And so I watched the stuff he told me that he had done. And it was like, he was pushing and there was no truth to it. There was no need to say these words. He was just trying to be funny. And so I said, so he comes to my house the first time, and he comes to the house, and he is that crazy guy. So he comes to the house, knocks on the door, and remember, this is before he was famous. And so he goes, hi, I'm Jim Carrey. He's doing all this weird stuff. And so, okay, come on in, weirdo Jim Carrey. And so I give him some sides to work on because we were just working on trying to fix the problem. And so he immediately, all that wonderful behavior, all that wonderful Jim Carrey-ness went out the window because he thought what he was doing wrong was being too big. The issue wasn't being too big. The issue was he was never making it truthfully desperate, necessary to do the things he needed to do to get what he wanted. Objective is key. It tells a story that you have to fill it in with personalizations that make it so deep and important that you're willing to do anything to get it. And that therefore behavior that surprises you and impulses that surprise you are allowed to emerge. And you can just be in the moment and be really present. But it has to be stuff that you're going through in today's world. So he takes these pages and he's really dry and boring. And I said, wait, what happened to the guy that came to the door and did all that crazy stuff and made me laugh? And he said, well, people say I do too much. And so I said, look, I told him that, what I tell all my actors. And then we just found out what his triggers are without giving, like everything we talk about is private. So his triggers are the things that really affected him. And really triggered him to really need a very loving, heartfelt, where his heart was in jeopardy in a really large way, that he put that in there. And then we worked on that week to week to week until he ended up getting some opportunities and rocked it because he was really he was an actor then. He was a real actor. And he wasn't trying to be funny anymore. He was just going after what he needed with so much need and so much desperation that who he is as a person was allowed to emerge organically.
And he could still be himself.
That's what I meant.
Which was a very odd person. Yeah. I mean, very like, I don't know, like exciting, engaging person that makes choices that maybe everybody doesn't make. And but it's connected to
who he is as a person.
Who is as a person?
Who is as an authentic person. If you're trying to be funny, that's not you authentically. We are all funny. We're all capable of doing stupid shit that makes people laugh. Sometimes on purpose, sometimes by accident. And we're all capable. Not everybody's super funny. Some people are more funny than others, and there's some people just don't have the comedy bone. But most people have some version of it, so just it's about like how to trigger that. And how we trigger that is allowing true, authentic impulses to happen by making so many, it's like there's 12 steps to the system, to the Chubbuck technique. And you have to do all the work. It's all the work that then drives you to this place where you're going to be surprised. It's like, where the heck did that come from? And like, I've never done that before, or that's crazy what I just did, and it surprises you. But you keep going, because if you need something with such importance and such profound importance, then you're going to have really incredibly interesting impulses that happen. But if you try to choreograph your comedy or your acting or performance, this could be a drama, you could choreograph too. Yeah. It comes off as stilted. It comes off as you're in your head, because in a real world, like we come into, like, say we're going on a first date with somebody. We have it all planned out in our head. And then when I say this, I'll be really clever. And then this person will say that, and I'll say this back. And the next thing I know, I'm sleeping with this person that night. And I'm having like this kind of touching her this way, and she's going to be responding this way. And then, the first thing that comes out of your face is something so stupid. Now all that stuff that you choreographed and planned, it went out the window. And now you're trying to chase the things that you thought was going to happen that didn't happen, and throwing out some of these lines. The person is going like, what the hell, where'd that come from? Yeah. And so it becomes, whatever really happens in life is not what we planned. It's just,
it's so surprising when something happens in a scene that you as the character doesn't expect. Yeah. And it's like such gold sometimes when that happens. And obviously that happens in films all the time. They keep it in because you've surprised yourself.
But it's also surprises everybody else. It's like it's hard sometimes for people to not like have some vision in their head about what it's supposed to look like.
Oh yeah. Or have comedic bits that you think are going to be funny. Like that was one of the things you said about our scene the first time we did it, that we had like bits. And we were like, of course we were like, we didn't have bits, but you like think something might be funny and you can't resist it because you're an actor. Well, you put it in there and then it just falls flat.
I got to tell you a story of like one of my bits auditions that I did an audition that Gary Shanley very kindly brought me in, but straight to network. So this was like high, it was like I broke it down into bits. So here I'm gonna kill. Oh, this is a killer bit. This is a killer bit. Okay, so I had this it was a 3-page scene, and I had killer bits for every single moment, right?
Yeah.
And so I show up to the audition feeling like I got this. It's my part. So first bit comes, nothing, crickets.
Uh-oh.
Second bit comes in. If crickets could have crickets, that would have been the sound. Okay. And so by the end of this audition that I was definitely going to nail, I totally felt I was an embarrassment to support this man who he's so funny, because he knew me as, because he watched me do, stand up, he's watched me, act in improv classes and stuff. And so he saw me as a funny girl. And so I was not funny, trust me. At the end of like this, my bit after bit after bit was our killer bits. I got to say, we're absolutely going to kill. This is their faces of the network. The main casting person and Gary Shandling was this.
Oh no!
So it was like I decided at that point never to act again. It's like, and if anybody from that grouping was ever, I knew was going to even pass them by in a restaurant, I would not enter. It's like, not that they would remember me, but the point is the narcissism of this business. But the fact is they slunk off, and
so painful. Yeah, so painful when that happens.
Yeah, and that's why I tell my actors, I said, actors' ideas suck.
I love that.
The actors' ideas suck. Just trigger yourself by doing the work, I mean, the 12-step technique is a really easy technique. It's real practical. So like just to really just break it down to what your overall objective is, scene objective and all for the character first. Then what you do is you look at how you personalize that to relate to it so you can live it, not act it out. And you'll find things will happen, and any planned out stuff, those moments that you plan out are going to fail. They just do. They never work.
Or they might work when you don't know why it's working. This happened to me one time. I was in a play called A Bright Room Called Day at the Odyssey Theater. And I was playing a character that just spoke German. And there was a point where, and then there was like a little romance going on between him and this other girl. And the other girl just spoke English. And she said a bunch of things to him. And then he just kind of looked at her and went like that. And that's what I did. And I didn't even know exactly what I didn't think it was going to be funny or anything like that. Brought down the house every night. Something about that dynamic, it was like a showstopper. People just laughed. And then I was backstage with a friend of mine who was also in the play. And he's like, you know why that's funny? And I was like, no, I absolutely don't know why that's funny. He said, it's funny because she doesn't understand what you're saying. And you go and you don't understand what she's saying. So you just kind of go like that. And it's hilarious. It was never funny again. I could never recreate it. It became an action that I was doing, that was not connected to anything anymore. It was connected to his idea of it. Yeah. And I was kind of stuck. I got a few laughs back, but by then it was just like, became me in my head.
Well, because it became in your head that this is what you were doing, so we don't understand each other. So I have to say, do this. And all of a sudden you got into your head about it, as opposed to really like maybe subconsciously, I don't understand you, you don't understand me. And well, we're done talking now.
Right. And also you come across sometimes, this is what's great about stand-up, because you can go out and do it and find out what people's responses are immediately, because they're seeing something completely different than what you think you're putting out. A lot of times, I think as an actor, a lot of times too, there's so much going on with your subconscious and the way people perceive you and all the different information that's coming to them that is not necessarily in your head, that you have to kind of see where it goes,
Well, yeah. And the thing is that that's just the whole concept of just don't plan anything out. You plan it out, those moments, I think it just generally doesn't work. And you maybe those moments where your planned out stuff works, but then it becomes that thing that happens when you go see a movie, for example, and you laughed all the way through it, but it was manipulated. You can manipulate laughs by doing something that's like usually like fart, but that will get a laugh. But the point is, you walk out of the theater going like, well, I wasn't satisfied because it didn't make me feel like I was involved. I felt that I was manipulated. And it's not like the subconscious thought process, but just because the movie gets a lot of laughs doesn't mean that people like it. You get bombed and people who walk out saying, don't watch this movie. And you could also have a movie that has less laughs than the one that got the bigger laughs, and tell everybody, you got to see this movie, because it was a full experience of being invested. I always tell my actors, my writers, and my directors, you have to invest your audience. They have to feel like they're part of the story. And they will not feel that way if you're trying to manipulate them, because nobody likes to be manipulated. Nobody likes to feel like they're being lied to. This is not your real truth. Because I always ask people, do you want to be lied to? Do you like being lied to? They say, no, nobody likes to be lied to. I ask that question all over the world. Of course, the response 100% is always no. So when you're acting it out and you're not being truthful to your needs, your powerful needs, then you're lying to people. And so people are put off, even though they may laugh, because again, you can manipulate a laugh. So you have to do the work that takes you to those places that laughs happen where you didn't expect them, and tears happen where you didn't expect them. I thought this was going to be my laugh place. Turns out to be you're crying, the place where people really get upset. And this is a place we're supposed to get people to cry, is we're actually getting huge laughs. And so, but you can't plan any of that out.
And also you as a performer sometimes laugh when other people, you would think there would be tears there, but you're laughing. And it's like, that's one of the things that was said in the studio. You got to chase your intention, not emotions.
Yes.
because the emotions are kind of byproduct of your intentions. Also, you probably have to leave a little space for the audience to have their own emotion about something, how they feel about it, not like telling them how to feel about it, like what you were saying. We as actors
Okay,
shouldn't be
sometimes
doing that.
people talk too fast, and I said, let it breathe. So let people in. It's like if everything is so closed off like a rock, like cement. It's like the thing is, it's not. There's no breathing room for me to be involved, and
Yeah.
so what we have to do is let your choices breathe. Take your time, land it. Let people be a part of your experience. And your exploration and trying to find your way to win your objective and to find your way to overcome and just have some version of resolution of catharsis through your objective, and let the audience be a part of that, not as a viewer, but as an active participant. And they will be if you allow them in. You talk at people, nobody likes to be talked at, or you could talk to people to get a reaction. And whatever you put towards your co-star, the person that you're working with, that gets translated to your audience. Now, your audience, if you're really trying to get a reaction from the person you're talking to, we get that as an audience. Also, if you're talking at the person, we get that too. And nobody likes to be talked at.
Yeah, nobody likes to be talked at. Nobody likes to be acted at. So you also worked with David Spade and Rob Schneider. They were in your class, is that right? What were those guys like? Because I really appreciate their humor, but they seem very, they have a kind of a freewheeling kind of way about them.
Well, I remember David Spade doing a scene from, what's it called? The Albert Brooks movie.
Broadcast News?
Broadcast News. And so he had just finished doing a audition for Johnny Carson. It was before David Spade was funny. It was not funny. He was always
before he was funny.
He's always funny. This guy is always he's a laugh, right? But before he was famous, and he did an audition for Johnny Carson, and he totally blew it. Of course, getting on the Tonight Show, even when Jay Levy, we were talking like back in the day, like getting on the Tonight Show and whoever's hosting it is a big deal for a comic. That's your big break.
Yeah.
And he totally blew that audition. And the scene was about a guy who had finally had his opportunity to be a reporter, and he totally blows it. So he uses that in the scene, and it's just all the thing, because the whole idea of Albert Brooks's character is he uses laughs as his way to win, and especially, how you're always funnier if you're a person that makes people laugh. Whatever your MO is, everybody has a modus operandi. Some people use sex, some people use intelligence, some people use violence, some people use humor, and so the thing is that his character and David Spade always used humor as a way to win, in spite of how dark they were feeling. And so he was doing that, trying to make her laugh, even though he was remembering as his inner work that horrible audition that was meant to be his big break, his big opportunity, and he blew it. And it was one of the funniest versions of that scene. And still to this day, when I run into David Spade, he says, that was the funniest version of Broadcast News, right? He still holds the golden star for that one. But because he had just had that happen a week before. And that's why I always tell people to use current stuff, because current stuff is still with you. And you're still trying to work it out. And you still have how when things happen, like if you have a horrible breakup currently, you feel like you're never going to fall in love again. It's never going to happen. You'll never be loved again. But then of course it does change a year later or 6 months later, whatever. It changes and you find it again. When things happen in the moment in time, you think extreme. We listen and talk to and talk through and hear and believe in lenses of high paranoia when it's currently going on. So it's the most provocative places for us to go is the stuff that we haven't figured out yet. So he used that because he thought he had to give up, comedy, and that was his thing. And so that was all through the scene of him trying to get this girl. It's like, now I can't even get the girl I want. I think I lost the career, can't even get the girl I want. It just became escalated. And it was really funny because it was so just dark and true to him. And Rob and him, well, they both knew that comedy had to put in drama. And there was one scene this girl was doing, and they would always sit together and snicker and make jokes with each other all the time.
Laugh inappropriately.
It's very inappropriate. It's like, they'd have to just like, shut up. But there was one time this girl was taking herself so seriously and she was trying to cry at every moment and doing all this stuff. And it was like, I wanted to laugh, but you don't, you can't do it. It's just this person's really trying. And they're cracking up, like without like, and they're in the back row. And I said, okay, guys, stop, because he's really trying. And then after, of course, during the break, I had to go up to them and I said, oh my God, that was so hard not to laugh with you guys. She was, because here's the thing, the concept of that is not that she was trying too hard. She was trying too hard to be dramatic.
Yeah.
She was not trying too hard to win. She was trying too hard to win. That's what people do. And then it would have been profoundly fabulous.
Right.
But what she did was I was trying to show everybody how many tears I could come up with, how amazing I am as a dramatic actress. And so it became funny because that's the comedy of it. She really wanted people to believe she was the next Meryl Streep. And so it was, of course, not what Meryl Streep would do, but the thing is what she thought she should do. And but they were characters. And ultimately, it was David that got the part on Saturday Night Live and got David Spade. I mean, David Spade got the Rob Schneider on the show. And wow. And that's why the troops, that whenever they have like whenever Adam Sandler's doing a show, they're always in it somehow. Whenever he's doing something, they always got to find their ways to get their friends in there.
I love that.
Rob Schneider,
that's community.
That's community, and that's.
How do you after your class, we all go out to a bar afterwards and hang out. How important is that to your class? Because it seems like it's something that's very important to you, that everybody builds a community. And is that something that you provide, with acting class as well? Something that's really important?
It's important to absolutely. In fact, when I do these overseas workshops, at the end, I have to do Q&A and do, signing of books and stuff like that. Afterwards, there's a party.
Yeah.
I always call it a party to continue the conversation. And so which is what we're doing is like, now we can be open and free to just talk about it and not worry about the scenes in jeopardy or you have to open up your deepest, darkest stuff, but we just enjoy the process now. And community is such an important part of wanting to do it. If I'm a part of a community, which means friendship, very important friendship, the people who get us in a way nobody else gets us, it's like, it feels good to then open up. Doesn't feel like, I don't want to really talk about this. And we heard everybody else talk about this, and afterwards you hang out, it's like, you talk about it some more and everybody feels close. There's a commonality of pain. And we feel like someone really gets us in a way that nobody else gets us, because you feel the same, childhood traumas, or you feel the same ways I do about dating, or the same ways I do about my parents, or we both have issues of molestation or whatever. It feels like you're not so all alone, and it feels good to be around where you're not being victimized by life circumstances, but supported and emboldened by it, because you have other people that are watching great performances happen as a result of exploring those very things that most people cause shame from. And so that community helps make that happen.
It's interesting because what you're saying is also what a play or a movie does for people. And sometimes people need to even sit in the dark and just experience it, or sit at home and experience it safely. But you look at, like you said, you connect with what's going on in the story, and then you feel a little bit better. Like, oh, I'm not alone. I'm not the only person that's going through this. But we as actors have to kind of open that up and put it, in a very public way out there.
We put it in a public way through our work. We're not telling, generally people, actors don't tell their inner work.
Yeah.
Some people do, but for the most part they don't. But you have to be brave to expose it even within because we know, an audience knows subconsciously that you are a brave human being who's willing to really let the real stuff, the real neuroses, your real fears, your real insecurities show, and that you embrace them as opposed to being afraid of them. And you become our emotional hero, because most people are too afraid to let that be. and also the concept of like, I need to watch this person that become a star because that person gets me, because I see whenever I see they seem to get my same stuff, but they're brave enough to do something about it within the character that makes me want to watch them over and over and over again, because it makes me feel good to watch them. It's not because it makes me feel good to watch because they like the choices they picked in plot. It's because the inner work that they're doing makes them feel that they're not alone. And there's something about human beings. Loneliness is probably one of the most prevalent problem that human beings suffer from. It's been the cause of more suicides, the cause of people just having incredible depressions and mental illnesses, is that the feeling of us dealing with life all alone. And if you're an artist, when you have to have your stuff at the ready, that means it has to be there. But you don't want to do that alone, because then it's going to mess with your head. And so you have other people who are making jokes about it and talking about it. And that's part of the whole thing about the community, is like, we don't take it serious. We don't say, oh my God, this happened. We make jokes about it. We make jokes about it. So we're saying, here's the levity to the darkness, because like all humor is based in something dark. It's called yin and yang, yin yang, right?
Yeah.
Opposites. Without you can't have the light without the dark. And the lighter it needs to be, the more funny it has to be. Lighter, it's funny. The more dark it has to be emanating from, for it to be to create the element of yin yang. Which
I like what you're saying about that too. You were saying that about, I guess we had a scene from Evil, the television show Evil, and you were saying how there's got to be some comedy in it. You know what I mean? There's got to be some, in horror movies, there's got to be comedy, because you've got to have it in there. Otherwise it just falls flat completely. And I've been watching that show, and it has that about it. It has a three-dimensionality about it, even though it can be about, demons and things like that. Even the demon is comical,
Exactly. But that's the thing is about the Kings. Michelle and Patrick King are the creators of that. They're incredible writers. They're also the ones that do the Good Fight, which is also really funny, but it's and The Good Wife, which also was funny, but also was a drama. And they're just brilliant writers. But I've had the luck to be able to work with Katja Herbers, who's one of the, she's the main star of the show of Evil. Yeah. And I've worked with her for years. And she just goes there. She's funny because she goes there. She's doing a
great job.
But she doesn't delineate this as a comedic moment or a dramatic moment. She just really goes balls to the wall to get what she wants, does the work. I mean, she really does the work. I mean, that's the thing about her. She's not gotten to a certain place where she says, I don't need to do the work anymore. Greatness is when people get that they have to keep working. It's growing and learning and growing and learning. Also, I work with Charmaine Bingwa on The Good Fight. And it's just getting to read the writing of the Kings is just amazing. But the character and the choices that we make, again, we just go balls to the wall to get what we want, make it really deep and important, and comedy and drama is allowed to come out. So we're enjoying the process of many elements and, again, nuances. You want a nuanced, layered performance.
And it's really kind of up to the writing. And you know what, this idea, I've been talking comedy versus...
Oh, you could put comedy and you could transcend.
Yeah.
You happen to have good writing, but you can transcend bad writing.
You can transcend bad writing. Well, tell me about that. So you get a script, you're like, this sucks. First of all, what do? Do you just go, I'm going to embrace this and find everything that I can from this thing? Because that happens to actors a lot. They have an opinion about the work about the script, and they're like, I don't know what I'm going to bring to this. Do I make stuff up?
Well, you don't make stuff up. What you do is you just do. Everything has a primal need and a primal reality to it. So you have to just really. What I did with Jessica Biel on Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Now that's she created a career off of that, made a lot of money, and they said the reason to watch this movie was her performance. We never looked at it as a bad horror film, because writing in horror films are generally bad, and that was particularly bad. What we did was we transcended it by looking at it as that this is Oscar material. So we didn't judge. You don't judge. You can't judge the material. Just go after what we made with such strong choices that she really was like life and death choices for people that she loved, that allowed her to really need to get what she wanted, as we were trying to do, is save the lives of the people that she loved, and then the people that she had problems with, as she needed to resolve issues with, so they needed to stay alive for her to have that resolution. And so we broke it down like it was like There Will Be Blood, we didn't break it down like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And as a result of that, she got incredible reviews. And this was honestly, when she came to me again, she came from a show called Seventh Heaven, and she could barely get auditions for like little tiny movies, because she was coming from a CW show, and so that Texas Chainsaw Massacre, being able to transcend through critical review and people just wanted to pay money to see, because it was more frightening to watch somebody who really thought was going through it, really scared, and that she became Jessica Biel, and people, her next
She
thing,
really can act too. I mean, that's a testament to you. She can really act her way out of a paper bag, as they say. She's really something.
I provide the paper bag to act out of.
Well, okay, so I think we're gonna have to wrap it up. But this has been super helpful, and my year with you so far this year has been just extraordinary. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere.
Oh, good. You're so funny.
Thank you.
And the thing is, I just always enjoy, I can't wait to see what Joel's going to do with this. And
I can't wait to see either. I never know. But I'm with you, until I've got too many days on the set to be in the class. You know what I mean? Like
we're working
I'm in this to win.
You're not getting rid of me. You're not getting rid of me.
Yeah, I'm not. I feel so fortunate to be in your class. I just some days I sit in there and I just think about how fortunate I am to be there, because I know I'm in the right place. And sometimes if I get down on myself because my career isn't exactly the way I wanted it to be, I go, well, you know what? You're in the right place. Just keep going. Just put one foot in front of the other and keep doing what you're doing. And I really appreciate also the way you deal with actors, because I think, we actors have very fragile egos. And we also, it's kind of our stock and trade though, sometimes, is to have self-esteem and be confident. And so I really appreciate the way you make people better. You have a strong, strong commitment to it, and you don't break them down in any way. I just watch people. Sometimes I watch people come in and I'm just like, I see them just transform.
Yeah.
And I see them and I'm like, wow, I didn't even know that was in that person. Right? But you pull it out of them. And
it's like, yeah. Oh, that was good. That was really good.
And you give them the tools to recreate it. I mean, for anybody who's watching the show that doesn't know about her book, it's behind her. It's called The Power of the Actor. It's like a 12-step process. Right. Every step is, got to go deeper and deeper and deeper on it. Yeah, there it is. Power of the Actor. I highly recommend that you read that if you're an actor of any kind, or an aspiring actor. You're just interested in what acting's all about. And also, I really appreciate the way you get people to just keep going deeper, 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 because there are lots of actors out there that are like, oh, I don't want to rehearse because I want it to be fresh.
That's just so dumb.
You're like the living proof that that's just bullshit.
Well, because it's what you're going to end up with, a mush of information, as opposed to the dense richness of layers. And you can't have layers if you're just going to see what happens and keep it fresh.
Well, and how can you truly let go if you don't already have all this stuff that you've worked on that's going to bubble up in the scene? You know what I mean? You're just
you can't let go. You can't let it go if you have nothing to let go.
That's so true. All right. Well, I'm going to let you go for today, but thanks so much for being on the show. Hopefully we can regroup another year from now. Who knows?
Yeah.
But I'll see you on Tuesday.
I'll go see.
Yes, right. Now I'm on a virtual set. This is the set for All in the Family, but hopefully a year from now I'll be on a real set.
Yeah.
Cool.
Not All in the Family, because that means you went back in time.
Right. Not this one. Not this one.
Time travel.
Unless they remake it or something. All right. Thank you so much, Ivana.
Okay. Love you.
I love you too. All right. There you go. There it is. Ivana Chubbuck. What more can I say? Thank you, everybody, for coming today This has been great. We've got a dance break. I got a really good dance break to end off this fantastic time with Ivana here today. If you are interested, of course, in reading her book, if you haven't read her book, check it out. I've got my copy right here, Power of the Actor. Mine's a bit dog-eared and has coffee stains all over it. But it's a very, very powerful tool for actors out there, of course. And as you can see, she's a powerhouse. The clips before the interview were, one with Stallone was from NPR. There was the Charlize Theron one, which was from inside the actor's studio. And then, of course, the Oscars and the Tonys. So thank you for that to those entities. Ben McKnight's just here for the last few minutes. You're going to want to watch this because Ben is a filmmaker and he's very interested in acting. I went on his show one time, Roadie, and gave a little acting class. So thank you to Ivana. Thank you to everybody for being here. I've got this fantastic, like I say, dance break. So dance them if you got them. This is from the musical Hair. Enjoy. Yeah.
We starve, look at one another short of breath, walking proudly in our winter coats, wearing smells from laboratories, facing a dying nation, a moving paper fantasies, listening to the new toll lies with supreme visions of lonely somewhere inside something there is a rush of greatness. Who knows what stands in front of our lives? I fashion my future on films in space. Silence tells me secretly
Love the musical Hair. I don't know if y'all do, but they're insanely good, yeah. Manchester, England, England.
Manchester, England, England, across the Atlantic Sea.
That's right. The Fear Ivana standing.
And I'm a genius, genius. I believe in God, and I believe that God believes in Claude. That's me, that's me, that's me.
We starve
England, England.
and one another short of breath.
Yes.
Walking proudly in our winter coats, wearing smells from laboratories, facing a dying nation, a moving paper fantasy, listening for the new toll lies with supreme visions of lonely tunes, singing our space songs on a spider web sitar. Life is around you and in you, and so for
Yes, yes. Thank you to them for letting us play this. Here we go.
let the sun shine, let the sun shine in, the sun shining, let the sun shine, let the sun shine in, the sun shining,
Yeah.
let the
Bye.